Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are diving straight into some seriously fascinating material from episode 40 of Mission Experienced Energetic Citizen. We're talking vocal engineering, specifically the psychology behind speech control. You know that feeling when someone walks into a room, opens their mouth, and literally everyone just stops and listens? Meanwhile, other people talk and it's just crickets? Well, we're going to unpack exactly why that happens. So let's jump right in. Spend words like coins, not garbage. Okay, I absolutely love this quote from the source material. It sets the perfect foundation for everything we're looking at today. I mean, think about it. When you throw away garbage, you don't care where it ends up, right? You just want it out of your hands as quickly as possible. But coins, that's currency. You count them. You calculate their value. You only hand them over if you're getting something of equal or greater value in return. Treating your words like actual physical currency, that is the absolute core of vocal engineering. It actively stops us from making those thoughtless, reactionary comments. You know, when someone gets under your skin and you just want to snap back. If you treat your words like coins, you hold back. You realize, you know what? This response just isn't worth the spend.
Moving right along to Section 1, the power of speech, an energetic system. This really demands a profound shift in perspective from us. We are taking speech control way beyond basic politeness. Like, this isn't just your parents telling you not to interrupt at the dinner table. We're elevating it to a high-level system of personal energy management, because speech isn't just invisible sound waves vibrating in the air, right? It's a measurable physical output of who you are. Every single word you utter burns up a micro expenditure of brain power, of emotional bandwidth, and of physical breath. The source material makes it super clear that holding your tongue isn't about just being shy or excessively agreeable. It's this highly active, strategic psychological system that fiercely protects your internal energy reserves, making sure they're locked and loaded for when you actually need them.
Which brings us to Section 2, the verbal leakage problem, the cost of over-talking.
To really get why this system is so valuable, we have to look at the dark side, the massive hidden cost of talking way too much. The source introduces this brilliant archetype to help us visualize it: Seth Karodimal. Now, Seth suffers from chronic verbal leakage. He literally cannot stop speaking without a second thought. Because his mouth is constantly outpacing his brain, he just blurts out his strategic plans to anyone who will listen, and, surprise, surprise, he inevitably gets dragged into useless, draining arguments over things that just don't matter. Look, we all know a Seth, right? That person whose complete lack of an internal filter creates a whirlwind of chaos everywhere they go. They cannot sit in silence, and because of that, they're always putting out fires that they started with their own tongue.
So the crucial takeaway here is that Seth's total lack of control functions as what the source brilliantly calls noise pollution. And it is exactly what it sounds like. Just like environmental pollution destroys a physical ecosystem, verbal noise pollution completely toxifies your social and professional environment. It scatters your mental energy into a dozen different directions. But the absolute worst part, it makes everyone around you subconsciously devalue your words. Picture that classic office overtalker. You know, they're always chiming in, extending a short meeting with some random tangential story. What happens? Everyone in the room mentally checks out before they even finish their first sentence. Their words suffer from massive inflation. Because there's this endless supply of them, they completely lose their worth. Seth has torched his mental focus and entirely ruined his own credibility just by talking too much.
All right, let's pivot to Section 3, the strategic silence solution, mastering measured speech.
Let's just take a collective breath here and slow things down a bit to explore the exact opposite approach to communication. Check out the stark contrast on this slide. On the left, we've got Seth with his noise pollution, his scattered energy, and his heavily devalued words. But over on the right, the source introduces our counter archetype, Master Dinanath. Dinanath operates in an entirely different universe. He uses measured speech, rigorously filters his thoughts, and as a result, produces highly respected words. It's a brilliant juxtaposition that shows exactly what happens when you upgrade your internal operating system from that chaotic verbal leakage to true strategic silence. Let's really pin down Master Dinanath's core strategy here. Measured speech is defined as the strategic system of speaking only when absolutely necessary, and making sure that every single word passes through a brutal thought filter before it ever leaves your mouth. It is a highly active, totally conscious process. You aren't just blindly reacting to whatever stimuli are flying at you, you're carefully, methodically picking and choosing which words actually get the rare privilege of being spoken out loud.
And man, think about the immense discipline that takes. It means stopping dead in your tracks right in the middle of a heated emotional conversation. It means feeling that sudden burning urge to snap back, running it through a mental checkpoint, and more often than not, choosing to just smile, nod, and stay completely quiet instead. It really is the ultimate flex of self-control.
And the real-world payoff for this discipline is absolutely massive. When you adopt Dinanath's calm, measured system, your words suddenly carry this undeniable weight. Because you speak so rarely, because you aren't constantly flooding the room with noise, people actually drop what they're doing, lean in, and really listen when you finally open your mouth. They know intrinsically that if you're taking the time to speak, it must be valuable. Your strategic silence literally transforms into an undeniable source of authority and power. You instantly upgrade from being that easily ignorable background noise to being the main event, the voice of reason that everybody defers to.
Let's get into the hard facts in Section 4, the science behind silence, neurology, and impact. So we are not just talking about abstract philosophy or, fuzzy self-help advice here. The source explicitly anchors this entire communication strategy in something called the law of cone and effect. Basically, this is a fascinating psychological law dictating that speech restraint directly conserves brain energy and multiplies your personal impact. This is huge because it moves us from simple etiquette advice straight into hard neurological fact. How much you speak directly dictates the available energy reserves in your brain. Once you realize that words are actually neurologically expensive, you really start to treat them with the extreme caution they deserve. This creates a staggering biological chain reaction. Let's look at the steps. Step 1. Excessive talking. Whenever you're generating words, stringing complex sentences together, tracking social cues, and emotionally reacting to others, you are heavily taxing your brain, which leads straight into Step 2. Exhausting the prefrontal cortex. Now, this is the highly advanced part of your brain that handles complex cognitive behavior, moderates social interaction, calculates risk, basically your core logic center, and it requires a ton of glucose to function. When you talk endlessly, you're just burning right through that glucose. So when that prefrontal cortex is totally drained, you inevitably hit Step 3, a severe reduction in your decision-making ability. You literally make worse choices in life simply because you exhausted your brain by talking too much. It's wild, right? You might think you're just casually chatting at the water cooler, but your brain is secretly running a marathon. You're depleting the exact cognitive bandwidth you desperately need to solve real problems and navigate your day effectively.
But thankfully, the exact reverse is also wonderfully true. By consciously applying speech restraint, you are actively stockpiling your mental energy. You successfully conserve those precious neurological resources, keeping your prefrontal cortex cool, calm, and fully operational. Actually, scratch that. It's more like you're supercharging it. That conserved energy can then be deployed for the stuff that actually matters: deep, focused strategy, complex problem solving, crushing your long-term life goals. Just by shutting your mouth, you actually multiply your impact on the world because your brain stays fully charged and ready to execute when it truly counts. You literally become sharper, faster, and way more lethal in your decision-making.
All right, to wrap up today's explainer, let's hit our key takeaways real quick. The golden rule derived from our source material is elegantly simple. Speak less, speak meaningfully. Master your own vocal engineering to protect your credibility and your neurological energy. Oh, and as a quick heads up from the source material, keep an eye out for their next topic. They're going to pivot into dietary purification and its profound chemical effects on the human body, basically applying this exact same lens of energy conservation to the food we consume. Should be super interesting.
But for now, I want to leave you with this final provocative question. Are you spending your words like valuable coins today? Or are you just thoughtlessly throwing them away like garbage? I really challenge you to reflect on your own vocal engineering the very next time you step into a conversation. Channel your inner Master Dinanath, filter your thoughts, fiercely conserve that neurological energy, and just watch how your strategic silence becomes your ultimate superpower. Thanks so much for joining me on The Explainer, and I'll catch you next time.